Hi everyone, my name's Connie, and it's a great pleasure to be sharing my story with you today. So my story is about culture, music, and finding balance in life. So where did it all start? It all started when I was at the age of 7, when I first picked up the violin. I was at this after-school program after school. I overheard this beautiful sound coming out of the room, and I was very curious. I asked my grandma at the time, what was that instrument? I wanted to play it. And when I found out it was a violin, it turned out to be perfect because it was very portable. It was more portable than a cello or a piano, which were the two most popular options among my peers at the time. And also it makes a decent sound, so I wanted to try it out. And at that time, the only motivations for me to practice was because I wanted that certificate from competitions and because I want recognitions from my peers. It was all very simple. But as you can imagine, those shallow motivations didn't really last long. Well, a year into my violin, I started to feel very worn out and feel very discouraged because I realized there's so many hours of practice that's required, and they're very monotonous. And in order to take my playing to the next level, those hours are required, and I don't think I have the stamina for that. So I started to doubt myself. Well, the only reason why I was able to still play the violin to this day was because of my grandma. At the age of 60, she was the one who would take me to violin lessons every week on the back of her bike. Every single day after school, she would prepare me dinner boxes just so that I waste no time in between school and violin lessons. And she was also the one who would always sit at the back of my practice room and always invigilate me to practice. Well, at that time, I didn't really think that was a good thing, but looking back then, I couldn't describe how grateful I was to my grandma and to her consistency in insisting me to play the violin to this day. The first turning point in my life came when I was 12. I moved to a boarding school in Shanghai, which is a city that's about 2 hours plane ride away from my hometown back in China. That was a strange time for me because you would think without my grandma by me, that being let go moment has finally come to me. And I would be the happiest kid on the planet just because no one is watching me and telling me what to do anymore. Well, honestly, I thought so too, but I was wrong. For the first time, I felt empty and insecure for the first time without violin. And I started to realize how those years of unwilling practice has made music and violin part of my life. And eventually it will lead on to shape who I am today. And very soon, when I was in middle school, I started to practice for myself. When there's no practice room available, when there's no music lessons available, I just started to enclose myself into a little room, whether that's in the basement, at the end of the corridor, wherever that won't disturb anyone when I practice. And this strange sense of resistance has turned into a sense of motivation because I started to realize there's so much more to music than just the black dotted notes on paper. I started to get into the bigger history of music. I started to read about composers, what are the history of time when they compose certain pieces, and that all kept me fascinated. And that really made me think that there's something more to it, and I kept exploring. One of the examples I found that's fascinating is that, as a composer as famous as Beethoven, he has his idols too. His idol is Napoleon. Who would have thought that he's written a piece, Symphony Number 3, as a tribute to his idol and expressing his wish of becoming a figure like him in the musical world. And that all made composers very tangible to me. And I was able to experience some of the deepest feelings, emotions, and vulnerability through playing their music and having a conversation, imagine a conversation with them in my head when I was playing. It was no less of another turning point when I decided to come to Boston last year. And this is when I came across Yo-Yo Ma for the first time. When I was learning about the ongoing conflicts in the world, when I was learning about the power of diplomacy and culture, I really wanted to combine somehow with my passion and what I'm studying in classrooms. And Yo-Yo Ma was the enlightenment for me because when I saw him playing, when I saw his musical group, Silk Road Ensemble, as the name suggests, it is a musical Silk Road because his group brings musicians together from all over the world. Iran, Turkey, India, China, Spain. At first, when I saw them, I was very skeptical. I thought, how would those instruments that would never have been put together make beautiful sound and make music that's acceptable to the public? And I was wrong. I was proven wrong very soon because it turned out that the work they do is very revolutionary in the sense that it breaks down the barrier for music. As you may know, in the classical music world, it is very well defined and very traditional. There's certain audiences that goes to symphony hall every single week, and they can afford that, and they take that for granted. But music, to me, isn't about that. It has the power to make social change, and that should be more accessible to more people in the world. And that's the inspiration I got from Silk Road Ensemble. It's that those musicians, they come from totally different culture background, they speak different languages, but through music, they were able to connect. And they were able to speak the perfect musical language when they played together. And that's what I found fascinating. Fast forward to today. When I reflect back on my journey, 13 years ago, I would have never thought where violin has taken me today. But now, I'm very grateful because I found my passion and I anchored myself to it. There are times when I'm still frustrated by myself, by how far from perfection my playing is. And whenever I look at my peers who play much better, I feel that sense of pity or strangeness. But what I've come to realize is that playing is as much about perfection as much about self-care and wellness, because you have to appreciate what you have and the journey that you've taken to get where you are today. And I believe that holds true for the passion that every single one of you may have, whether that's doing a sport, whether that's photography, dancing, writing. It's not about where you are today or where you want to be in 10 years' time, but just looking at now. And by that, I invite all of you to reflect on your journey with doing something that you're really truly passionate about, and reflect on and rediscover some of the healing powers behind doing those things. And on that note, I would like to share a musical performance with you at the end. This piece is called Meditation. It's very close to my heart. It's a piece from a French opera called Thais, and it is played when the main character experienced a spiritual awakening moment for her, when she decided to convert into Christianity. And whenever I play this piece, it's very simple melodically, but it brings me back to the very first day when I first learned to play this music. When my sound wasn't as perfect as I am today, but I was still able to get the same amount of joy and enjoyment out of it. And as I'm playing, I invite you, please feel free to close your eyes, maybe even paint a picture in your head. And I hope you enjoy the piece. Thank you very much.